All right. Okay, so as Rachel, started the introduction, today we're here to talk about um, a little bit about the project workflow for exploratory data projects. And I actually gave this talk originally last month with Our Lady's Bergen, and that was my actual first talk, I guess I should say. So I'm sort of repeating, but with a little bit of addition from since then. And now I found out two more packages. So I've added, as in my last slide, I'm not talking about it too much because I didn't have enough time to explore it so much. But I guess they look promising, and so I added the links. So if you come back to these, come back to this deck later, which I'll be sharing with Rachel, and I think in the meetup group, you would have access to those links. So all right, let's get it going. So I guess to begin with, about myself, I'm a data science practitioner, and I also do some side gigs on freelancing. At this point, I currently work as a data science consultant with On Point Insights, and I sort of consult a client in biomedical devices company leading their reporting needs from the quality and complaints side of things. I also TA for currently I'm also TAing for applied linear modeling class at University of Pennsylvania for the social sciences department. I'm an avid R user. I always have, I guess, 2 or 3 R projects open at one time on my laptop. And I try to be as active in the community for our ladies and our for DS as much as possible. I studied at Boston College in the US, and my prior education has been in India. And I'm also, big proponent of women in data science, analytics, and I've been ambassador of some of these in the past few years. And then I'm ready to jump in. The big motivation for this talk was basically came in based on the projects that I was working on early this year. And I ended up with a bunch of projects on exploratory, side of things, very open-ended projects where I just had to figure out something and I didn't know where to start. So as a result of which, what happened was I realized after my third project that I was doing a lot of repetitive work. And for a person like me, I tend towards automation. And hence, my idea of sort of trying to streamline or automate as much as possible of my, sort of EDA workflow would be. And I think the challenging piece of it was that it was taking so much time for me to, get the data, generate all those plots over and over again. And I was ending up with not enough time to actually look at their outputs and generate insights out of it to make better use of my time. And hence, I started moving towards streamlining my thought process. And in that process, I came across lots of packages, some of which you've already heard, some of which you may not know. So let's get started. My talk would be basically divided into 2 parts. One being the absolute first steps, meaning these are the packages that will follow in the next subsequent slides. Would be about you would be able to use them, or I preferred using them when I come across a data set absolutely fresh, when I don't know much about it, and I'm like absolutely literally exploring what is there in that, how many columns there is, how are different unique values looking in it. And then there will be a second step of the second phase of this would be when we kind of have a sense of the data, but we start to visualize it a little more specifically. I want to look at unique values and a lot more from some of the functionalities from Excel also that make things very quicker for us. So again, coming back to the phase 1 or absolutely new data exploration phase, the packages that I discovered and I want to talk about and share with everyone is the first one being Data Explorer package. And what this package does is verbatim, it helps you with 3 main steps. It helps you do a lot of it automatically does a lot of exploratory data analysis for you, and the results that it provides you allow you to look into a faster, quicker feature engineering. And then overall, this package also provides you with functions that you can use for data reporting purposes. Again, that is about like the low-level details of what each variable in the data is, and how the bivariate and multivariate relationships exist in the data set that you have at hand. There are lots of functions that this package provides, but my go-to has been create report function. And I'll do a little demo of this. And TX housing is one of the data sets available in ggplot2 package, which I have taken to talk about and show the example for. The slide is also has all the links to all the packages. So the vignette for this is how it looks like, and it gives you all the details of multiple functions that it provides. It also provides a way to replace missing values. I am probably not going to go through all the details of this, but this is one of the very promising packages that I've seen and come across, and I think this is really powerful. I can actually demo that first, or maybe I'll just go through the next package as well, and I'll finish the phase one and then I'll demo the rest of the packages. So moving on, the next package that I want to talk about is Data Reporter package. It was one of the packages that I heard about in a YR conference, I guess more than a year ago. Now, this package very specifically focuses or is built with the mindset of doing quality checks on your data. It has some of the repetitive things that you would see with your Data Explorer results, but I think the stronger part of it, or the better focus of that this package is more on the quality of the data. So it tells you, more than just missing values. It also talks about what outliers seemingly you would see in this column in this data set. And again, with many other functions available, if I have to just pick one function that is helpful, or that sort of brings out everything, all the essence of this package for me, is make data report function. And we'll go through this demo again for the same housing data set, and see what are the additional value, what is the additional value that it brings. So again, I'll just reiterate that this package, with some similarity to Data Explorer, but also has its additional value of how it brings summary of data checks, and it helps you identify the possible errors in the existing system that you are in right now. Moving on, I guess Skimr package is pretty famous. I would say probably more than these two. And Skimr package with its only one function, that would be a Skimr skim function that helps you look at the different values in your column. It provides you summary statistics with very easy to modify defaults. And one very I guess a conspicuous difference between all of these packages is, or the results of these report functions, is that Data Explorer create report, it gives you a nice HTML format response. Data Reporter by default provides you with a PDF output, and Skimr skim function actually throws out your results in the console. So again, that could be another way of or reason for choosing whatever you choose for the ease of being within the system, like within your RStudio window, if that's what you would want. So I guess before we move on, I don't think I'm sharing everything, so I'm gonna share my RStudio window now. Can you all see my RStudio?
Yes,
okay. All right, so I'm gonna have to share everything, because I should have the results. Okay, and sorry for that. For me to look around what I was going to show. See if I can just run it here.
I could see the report for a second when you pulled it up, the PDF one.
Yeah, this one has to be an HTML one. In the live presentation, something always has to happen, so I can't figure out which file it was. All right, so we should have one pretty soon. All right, so this with just one function, I was able to look at this, let me show you this rich report that I get tells me a lot about the data set that I have. And let's say I've not looked at this TX housing at all. And it tells me how many rows it has, how many columns it has, what data type it is, what the numeric, discrete, continuous, and how many missing values do I have. Now, after that, quick table, it also tells you how many missing values you have by percentage in each of these, data sets. So how many, in how many columns, how many observations, meaning rows. Then a quick structure of how your data looks like. Now, by each column, how many of these are, what percentage of rows in each column are missing, and it gives you a quick bar chart of that, and percentages on top of that. Again, everything you would want to do in univariate distribution, bivariate analysis. It also goes up to the extent of giving you QQ plot to basically test for normality, correlation analysis. I think a lot of times we do need these numbers. I guess I personally have not used PCA from these results, but it goes up to that extent. So it's pretty detailed and pretty time saving, I would say. At least 1 day's work for me, 1 day's worth of work, when I would be probably making all of these charts and exploring every individual column within the data set. So that's only Data Explorer. Going back to the data reporter package. Now, this is how the output of, the PDF format of this output looks like. Again, like I said, it has some, repetitions and for reasonable reasons. So it gives you how many rows and columns you have, how many. Now, I guess this is the check that I was talking about. So it talks about how many missing values you have, how many prefixed and suffixes, white spaces. So basically that gives you a quicker sense of, what data frame or what column you're looking at, what data types this, variable is. If you know about it, you basically get a better, you are able to quickly decide if there are any changes that you want to make. Again, the summary table of number of unique values, missing values, and it tells you if there are any problems, one or some of these problems that have been highlighted, including the outliers and misclassified numeric or integer variables, and things like that. So I think that's pretty useful and powerful. It gives you, in a similar way, a univariate distribution here with a, a histogram and a little bit about the variable itself. I think the one I do want to bring in attention to is these values, which it identifies as outliers, which may not necessarily be outliers in your data, but since it specifically highlights those values, it gives you a sense of, I'm thinking of right words. So it gives you a little idea of maybe something that you want to go back to and check. So it just sort of highlights that, it's a sign that you can go back and look at this, go back to this column and check a little more in detail. So that's good. So, a lot of these columns have those notes on outliers here. And then, rest is basically sort of your environment information. So again, like I said, pretty useful information here. We'll go back to the skim function. So this pretty much, I should do it this way. So this gives you a lot of information, again, some of which is repeated about how many rows and columns, how many character and numeric variables. It also allows you grouping. So in this case, it says, the group variable is none here. And I think that's one of the strongest suits of schema I find against these other two. So now this piece is the summary statistics that I was talking about. And I think one that I personally like a lot is this quick sort of the spark lines, but it gives you the histogram distribution right here in front of you in the console, which is also kind of useful in, especially like, say, for example, in this case, as the listings and inventory column, you can see that these are skewed and, this one is uniformly distributed, which is a good piece of information to have. And going back to the grouping piece, you could also use, your data to be, you could group it by, let's see, what can we group here by? Maybe, let's see. Let me do it by city, or I don't know, I want to do it by date because I want to keep it small. And I might have to actually load all the rows first. So you can see how quickly, again, for each year. So let's see. So group column is year. So for each year, it is going to give you how, different your summary statistic is for all the rest of the columns. Again, including all those histograms in the end. So it kind of, is another way of quickly looking at your data, and especially if there are more numeric variables than others. And now I think we're ready to, should I pause for any questions?
I do see there are two questions that came in on Slido, and one was from Sharon. Would you want to ask that one live, Sharon?
Oh, wait, yeah, I'm unmuted.
Thank you.
It's the Zoom hell. I'm on mute. I was just curious if you've tried these summary reports on very large data sets, and if so, how that works. It looks really interesting, but if you've got something with like 1 million rows, is it not reasonable?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's not reasonable, but yes, I would agree that it would take relatively longer time. And I have personally experienced that with Data Reporter. I think when I tried it was with a sort of million, with a data set of sort of that tune that you're asking. And Data Reporter, because of, I think, what goes in the background, it is generally slower than Data Explorer or Schema package. It honestly might even take like 5 to 10 minutes. But with Data Explorer, that would be relatively faster, like maybe under 1 minute or so. That's my experience.
Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, with Data Reporter, I remember how excited I was to share those results with my team. It was worth it, I guess, even if, I just ran it and maybe went to get a coffee. Yeah, that's so.
Hi, Priyanka.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
DP here. So usually we do, after the univariate analysis, like we do the bivariate analysis as well, which like even in the tривariate, like sometimes we do it.
Yeah.
So because I'm actually the beginner in this but I use the Python and all those tools. I don't know like what this tool is basically. Number one is that about that one, if you can share the information. Second one is when we go to the deep level, like we need to group certain things and then do some aggregate functions on top of it. Like, so like the Data Explorer, like whatever the report you just show up, which you said, look, like it's gonna, save us a day. So such kind of things can be added into this one, or like for that one, we have to do it, our programming or something like that.
Can you repeat your question? I'm not sure I'm getting 100% of that.
Okay. So you pulled out a report, and that report was pretty much like what by default like report came up there. But sometimes we have to do the like, okay, grouping and Yeah, that pretty much this report. Yeah. So I'm talking about the next step, like around the bivariate analysis or the try. So when we group the values and then we put some aggregate functions, so such kind of things like are also supported by this tool, or for that one we need to do some programming.
So I guess all of this is, in a way, our programming either within the package or, you would be writing it. But I guess to answer your question, so this, the result that you're seeing right now is just from one function, which again, is in a way coding. You would install the Data Explorer package, and then you would some way, also write another I guess a function, read CSV or some other way of reading your data. And then you would use the create report function from Data Explorer package to run on this data set. Now, so to specifically look at the groupings, I would say, I think what you can do is, like I was mentioning earlier, now, if you look at these vignette of Data Explorer package, it also provides you with the smaller functions that are giving these results. In this one. So, if you look at all these graphs, right, they are driven by some other function. They're all of this is,
let me put it this way. Okay, let me change the question a different way. So this is like the pretty basic stuff which it has done, like, okay, getting the columns information, like, okay, putting the charts based on the column, based on data missing and all that stuff. That is the first stage which you said. So let me put it this way. For example, if you in our commonly used data sets which we have, the Texas, let's say, and I want to find out like which like the honors properties are highly listed there, and I figure out like the 10 out of them. Now I want to create a subset of 10 which is pretty much on the grouping of that one. Okay, hey, for these, make a group of certain items which will help me to lead to the decision that why they are basically the top 10 the honors who their properties are highly listed there. So now what I'm saying is we need to group them. We need to find out, okay, what aggregate functions need to be used. So such kind of things, likewise, this single statement does exist there or not there? This was my question.
Priyanka, I think Priyanka was covering that when she was going into the individual functions that were part of this, but I know a few other people were recommending some other packages that you might want to check out as well. Like Eric mentioned, the point blank package, if you want to do a lot of customization. But I know we're still in the middle of the presentation here, so it might be good to save this question.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm first time.
No worries. I could tell you're excited about it.
I thought of like, okay, my problem getting sorted out within a minute. So I got too excited. I'm sorry.
No worries at all.
Yeah,
we'll definitely have more time for questions.
Right, and with data exploration, it's always an iterative process. You do something and then you find something interesting or not so encouraging. And then you try to poke around. You filter your data to see what is exactly going on in these 10 listings, and then sort of try to find more. So you've got you have to keep going into specifics. I guess that's how I would answer.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. There's one more question from Mio. So you're asking
the Explore this Data Explorer, like, is it available for the Python library as well? I think you're working on
this is an R package. Yeah, it's an R package.
It's only R package. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I see Mio had asked one other question, adding a follow-up on Sharon's question. Do you or anybody on the call have advice for EDA with big data with hundreds or thousands of predictor columns?
Yeah, and I guess the question more is on he or she has had more challenges loading this data, which is this large. I guess I'm not an expert, but I've heard Vroom and Arrow packages might be helpful with this. But I guess it's not in the scope of what we are discussing. So I hope it's okay if I move on.
Definitely. And I can share those links to those packages too in the chat while you continue.
Perfect.
Thank you, Priyanka.
Sure. So, all right. So moving on to, after doing a lot of interesting exploration with different kinds of quality checks and, individual level details of what your data looks like. Now is when your actual work starts and you want to see a lot more, you want to get in more depth of the data that you have. So now on that note, I figured I found useful these following packages where our pivot table is a synonymous to Microsoft Excel pivot table, which I'm sure a lot of us have used before we moved on to our journey. And I personally found it very useful because I was working with a lot of user level data, but it was in terms of their daily activity on the app, and which meant that the data set that I have, so for each user I had multiple records, and every time I did some filtering or any sort of transformation or wrangling of my data, I always from the QA perspective, I always wanted to see how many users did I lose out in this funnel or in this analysis chain. So, I always was looking at the unique number of users. So instead of having to do, select user ID distinct and then, give me that count of the final number, I sort of had created this little chain of my tidyverse code. But again, having to do copy paste that again and again, I figured this package was what solved my problem. And then again, we'll move on to Exquisite and Chronicle as well. So now within this package, when I look at it, I sort of, I created these little notes here on how do I find this useful. So it allows me to do a lot of quick and dirty exploration, like I was saying. So every time I would filter the data, I would pipe in a RPivot table function in it, and then from that point onwards, whatever the state of my data is at this point, whether it's at the granular level, whether it has been grouped or whatnot, I could always, just pick and choose things I wanted to look at, what are the unique number of users I have, or per user level, how many records am I looking at this point in terms of their activity and things like that. So from the demo purposes, let's go to the workflow here. All right, so I am going to be looking at, all right, yeah. So the demo here is about this. So again, back to the TX housing data, you can see that it brings you pretty much the same setup as a Excel pivot table. It allows it, on the fly, first it gives me the count of the entire number of rows, which is the default, right? But I can always look at count of unique values by which column. In this case, I want to look at how many unique cities do I have. In my case, I would go back and look at the user IDs. We could look at how many years data are we looking at in this case. So we have 16 years of data in this TX housing, which is great. We could go back and say, just quickly do the sum of the sales values. Like how much money are we talking about here? I could spread this by years. I could break it up by cities and years and all those things. So again, this is pretty simple, and I have not even bothered to actually look if there are any more functions within this package, because in this use case that I have, in the situation that I was in, being able to do this just quickly and see, oh, okay, this looks very small, this looks very high, so based on that, and maybe this is a specific area of issue that I want to focus on, and that's all I needed to know in the exploratory process that I was in. And when I come across these things, I will make a quick note of what I'm observing, and then I'll move on to doing the next step of things. And I think one thing that I sort of want to bring in is the reason why I'm talking about all of these packages or different iterations in using these is that when you talk of an exploratory project, you basically don't always need everything for your stakeholders or for your final outputs in your final presentations when you're working on them. And hence, I feel that even though I am very much an automation person and pro code, but I have started to appreciate that not all the time I need to create all the code. I don't need to always have a ggplot to code to be able to have a look at that final output. And hence, these quick analyses, they help me a lot move faster in terms of what I'm trying to achieve. Going back to this discussion, I guess in terms of sort of wrapping up this package and this function, I just want to talk about some benefits and limitations that I found. So as I just demoed, you can see that, you can not just the counts, but you can sort of do any sort of aggregation, pretty much everything that you would do with the pivot table within your, staying within your R ecosystem, within your RStudio. And especially if your data set is bigger, it proves to be much more useful than actually moving into an Excel and doing those pivot values and letting your Excel hang. That will not be a situation here with our pivot table function. And I think what I find really useful is that it's pipeable. So, you can have your data at any stage, like I was mentioning earlier, and you could still look at different sort of summary statistics with your data. I guess limitation, probably not, is, in this case, is that you don't get a code generated out of, any analysis that you would do here. Like I was looking at unique numbers. I was looking at maybe in some form of aggregate. At that point, I am looking at it, but as a result, I'm only seeing the actual outputs or the changes that are happening. It will not automatically generate the code in the backend for me, which is actually fine for the purpose that it is solving for me. And I think the bigger reason why I have this no code as a limitation here, because when we talk of Exquisite, I guess then it'll make it more clearer. And then, it's very plain and simple. It doesn't have too much of colors, which is again also not a big deal, but just to sort of, bring in that it's not too fancy as such. So should I pause for any questions before I move to the next package?
We can hold some of them till the end as well.
Okay.
But just a reminder that people can use Slido as well if you want to ask any anonymous questions too.
All right. So great. Moving on to Exquisite, which is, I kind of really like this package. And I think, I don't know, I think Rachel, this was the first package that we first, like earlier, talked about, when in our previous conversations about, can I give a lightning talk? It was years ago. But yeah, so this package really allows you a very quick exploration in a visual manner, which I think is what people would be able to appreciate. It is basically a package that runs your it basically still generates ggplot2 packages, but with the user level of interaction, a UI kind of Tableau kind of platform for people. It also allows you to do a lot of data wrangling on the go, and I will show you what I'm meaning by that. And it also does the code generation, which was the previous limitation I was mentioning. And let's do a quick demo of that to see what I just said, like what it really means when I said these things, what it allows to do. And I think one thing to know is that when you run this Exquisite package function Exquisar, it actually brings up Shiny app for you. But yeah, it's fun. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this. So once that Shiny app opens up, it gives you I don't have any data frames right now. All right, one second. I have to close this first. So I can. Okay, good. So let's run this again. Great. So now bringing up the TX housing again. When you bring this up for the first time, it will always ask you to share or select which data frame you want to work with. You can change the environment. You can actually also get the data from Google Sheets and some external files. But I guess personally, I've just mostly used something from my environment. So we'll go ahead and you say import data. And then this is sort of a quick Tableau style visual that appears for you, the UI that comes for you. It allows you to, it basically brings all the columns from your data set here. It allows you to, make different charts and plots. As you can see, it gives you all the defaults of, or all the options that you normally get in a ggplot, because like I said, this actually runs a ggplot2 in the background for you. So let's see, let me just drag in the sales column. So what it will do is it also gives you a little warning of things that you have missed out. So for the missing values that have been removed, which every ggplot2 also warns you in general. So now what this does is, by default, since it was a numeric variable, it actually plotted a histogram of this data, this entire column. You could choose to change things. Then in certain cases, you may not be able to, some of the plots will not be highlighted if that data type does not support it. But otherwise, it basically brings up the limited functionality of the plots that it can make for you. Here again, now if I wanted to make this violin chart by, I want to say year. Let's actually pick this. All right. So it is going to now make, it changed the plot by default, but you get the idea that you basically can play around with a lot of these things on the fly and on the go. So a couple of other things that I want to talk about is, it gives you all the, like even, beautification options that you, all the theme and the filtering options that you generally would write to get to your final code. I think most of that is sort of also covered in these options here. So you can change your X label, Y label, you can change the caption and title of your chart. So for example, let me see a scatter plot here, and you would see that appear, right? And then within the plot options, you can choose to vary things here. Then, all those things that you get, that you would always use as a layer in your ggplot2 command, or your ggplot2 code. You can change the transformation. This is the stat piece of it, for the X variable, for Y variable, and things like that. You can flip the coordinate if you would want. And there's an option to add smooth line. And again, there are some, generally you would have some more, some things could be different when you change your plot type and things like that. For the appearance perspective, you could change things that, how you want it to look like. Again here, I think this is what I was saying. So from the wrangling perspective, you can, just by quickly selecting these values, or maybe deselecting values from this categorical variable, you can do all that filtering of your data. Like you can say is not is.na is what you want. So all of these things, make it so easy and so quick for you in terms of getting the kind of output that you're looking for. And then the magic part of it is, you get all the code based on what you did here, which you could just click here to insert it in the script right away, or you could copy in the clipboard and go back to your code and write it. So that's why I guess this is one of my favorite packages, which allows you to play around with things. But yes, I guess the challenge with this is that as your data gets bigger and bigger, I guess with a million rows, this starts to lose weight, or it starts to hang and take much longer. But in general, I guess when working with that big data, what I have what I've always been suggested by my bosses is that, start with a smaller subset and, then play around with things. If something seems useful, then, you can take the code from this and then maybe run it with a bigger data set in a next section or next code chunk. But still, I still feel that, even if your data is too big, there is definitely a lot of value in using this and, sort of saving time. Another option that this gives you is, I think something I missed earlier was, let's see. All right, so since I am not able to look at the data, it also allows you to, look at your data, like just to sort of get a sense of is everything imported correctly or not, or something, as just to make sure that what you are expecting is actually what it is. And on that note, it also allows you to, sort of coerce your values. So either you can do it here, maybe if this is an integer, but you want to make it a factor, you can do that. It also allows you, I think, okay, maybe this version has changed, but I guess I've seen that earlier, the coercing option to come in here. But at this point, you can actually do those things here. It also gives you a little quick summary of your data. Then you say apply changes, and then you can go ahead and you go back to this background screen and have fun with the data. Okay, and now for respecting everybody's time, I'm gonna just quickly jump into the next one and try and talk less. Just running through the benefits and limitations, like I was mentioning. It allows you to, it sort of saves you a lot more time in, it allows you to do exploration as well as generates code for you when you choose to say, okay, this is the one, you tried 5 things, you didn't like all of them, you said, okay, this last one is what I like, and this is what I'm going to keep. Now, after that, after you've chosen to keep this, you don't have to again go back to try and figure out how you got to that. It gives you a code that you can just quickly as it is take and move on. It does not provide you a lot of options of summaries as the previous packages that we've talked about. And hence, that's why I see that, using all of these in, conjunction, using the package or the function for what it is, more useful for, would save you some energy and time. And like I was saying, so with respect to the plot options also, there are the ones that you see. So it is limited in capacity in that sense. But again, I think that's still pretty powerful. It gives you a lot to do as against, it's half full, not half. Like, I don't know what I'm saying, but I guess I'm looking at the positive side of what it allows you to do. And then the final one is the Chronicle package. It is a package that allows you to do quick exploration and report generation. Words wise, I guess a lot of what I've already said. But to demo it, what it does is it provides you with a lot of add underscore functions, and it provides you with render report function and report columns. I've given a summary of this, what these 2 functions basically are similar to, and then add functions are actually wrapper to make functions, which is how it looks like. So again, even with Chronicle, visuals that you're going to be looking at, you still have ggplot2 under the hood. The function that you would write would be a make underscore, for example, bar plot or aligned plot and things like that. But what goes under the hood, is really a bar plot function is being defined with lots of these, customizations, which you can actually pass on here. So it's just a way of wrapping, creating a bar plot with the layer style to, these options that you can mention within your one function call. So in a way, it makes it shorter or quicker to get to those final outputs that you're looking at, which again, like I was mentioning earlier, it's really a situation, depends on use case, where a ggplot2 code would be better, or a Chronicle code would, using a function from Chronicle would make you do things faster. And then it reduces the time to generate plots, is what I was trying to mention, because it's still a code, but it kind of brings it all together, and it tells you, like, you don't have to look for what was my continuous scale option, or what other theme options that I was trying to look at. So you have all those options within your function call, and you can choose to change or not change any of those specifics. So let's jump on to look at a demo for that. Okay, actually, I don't think I have a demo for that. I do. So, so this is how Chronicle, functions look like. So, for example, if I'm creating a report, I could use add underscore text function. I could add a table and a rain cloud and a scatter plot. Now, and then you're basically just piping what all functions you want, instead of plus layer, adding the layer using a plus operator in your ggplot. So this is, to me, it's much more stronger and powerful in that sense that now at this point you can have tables and charts and everything all in a singular report. And then, like I was mentioning earlier, the render report function, it allows you to use generate more than one output formats. And you could give some titles, you could add some more fancy customizations, in a markdown format and things like that. And I'm going to try and see if I can get the demo. Yes, so this is how the output of the Chronicle demo looks like on this data set. So this is on Iris. I guess I didn't get to change a lot on this. So what you're looking at is all the add underscore functions that we used. First we added the text of, which is the title. Then we added the table of what we are looking at. This is just the head of the actual data set which we wanted to look at, and the title, this is how it looks like. So that piece is just you added by you just had to add this much section to get that nice table in your report. Then you are adding a rain cloud plot, which I think is the most important for me. Because I have personally struggled a lot with creating a rain cloud plot. So this was like so simple for me, and I guess this was my one most important, if nothing at all, I think this is my go-to why I would use this package. So it gives me that ease of doing lots of stuff. And then we added a scatter plot, and then this report basically just has that, whatever you needed to do with it. You can mention the groups, you can mention what your X and Y are going to be, and then so all of these is generated in, this is a object that I created with all of this piped together. And then I say, give me this as a report format. I want a PDF and I want RMBF formats. And this is one of the PDF format outputs that I'm showing you. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much about it. And these are some of the resources, links that I've used. I guess pretty much some of these things that I had opened and showed you in between. The bonus was these two packages that I've also come across since I actually did this last presentation last month, and between yesterday, I saw that there is another package which is pretty strong in terms of, again, I think this also uses a Shiny app in the process. Is a DLooker package and a Descriptor package. I think Descriptor was shared by Indrajit Patil, so I should give this credit to him. I came on my LinkedIn feed. And yeah, with that, I think I'm good. And that's all I wanted to share with all of you.
That was awesome, Priyanka. Thank you so much. It's crazy how many packages there are, and to like keep up to date on all of them is almost impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. I see there are a few other questions, and Amit Rajit asked a question on Slido. Could I pass the mic over to you to have you ask that?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Priyanka. It was really a wonderful session, especially the Exquisite package that I feel, it will be really helpful for me in my EDA exploration. So I had just one small query, when you had all this, when you do this EDA on these various data sets, is there any particular package of choice of packages which is more suited for a text-heavy data exploration, like data sets which is like having more columns or values which are having more characters rather than numerics? For example, I use a skimmer a lot, but that's what I have observed. It's very good, obviously, if there are more like numeric variables. But when it comes with text or character heavy data sets, I mean, it's a struggle for me. So
so based on this list of packages that I've talked about, I would say potentially Data Explorer would be good, because then it will throw out, like with the create report, it will throw out all the bar charts with the percentage or the number of records that you have for each of those categories within that variable. So for example, a month column has January, February, March. So it'll throw out what you see in, how much of your data is that you see in each month. Or, for example, if there's a category where is, slim, I guess I don't want to take this question. If it's a gender, male, female, you would know how the things are distributed within that. So I guess that would be one. And otherwise, it could be our pivot table that could be useful in the way I see it.
Yeah, I think our pivot table, that one was really fantastic. Yes. Thanks, Priyanka. Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you. And I see Matthew had just asked, are you able to share the sample code with us as well in the presentation, along with the presentation?
So a prior version of this and most of the report samples that I talked about, they're already on my GitHub. But I will be uploading this one the slide that I've shared today, the one I was talking through, also on my GitHub, and then I'll share the link with Rachel, and I guess she'll be sharing on the
Awesome. Perfect. So I'll share the Zoom recording link on the meetup page, and then I'll put the link to your slides and GitHub there as well.
Perfect.
I'm just going to do a quick check here, and I wanted to see if there are any questions we missed from earlier. I see a lot of people are saying, thank you so much, Priyanka. That was awesome. But feel free to unmute yourself if there's a question that I've missed.
Hi Priyanka, DP back again. So by any chance, if you come across these similar packages for Python, I know pretty much sure there will be a lot of them.
I think probably there is a parallel for Data Explorer, with the same name for Python. And you'd be I think you'll be really excited to know there is a Lux package that I recently attended, like a data umbrella session that I attended. And Lux package in the Python ecosystem is amazing. It seemed very promising, and I was like, oh my god, why don't we have it in our Lux, LUX? You should explore that. It's I guess a step forward from things that we've talked about today. It adds a lot of I guess intuition behind what you've done and the data that it sees, and then it gives you options to do next. So it's really powerful.
Got it. And this ggplot is also, I think maybe because package. I never used it. Or is it only R package?
It's an R package. ggplot 2 is an R package which you use for data visualization. So it goes to this theory of grammar of graphics, and it's a layered approach where you basically write first ggplot2 function, and then you use a plus operator to add more specific customizations to that code. So if you remember seeing this piece here, this portion of the code, it's not too big, but I'm hoping if you can see this. Plus operator. So you basically, start with the ggplot function, then you keep adding what kind of plot you want, and then, specific details about how your visual should look like. So theme allows you to change how the text should look like, how the color in the background, and the grid lines and whatnot can be changed. And then scale, continuous, and fill manual. These are how your axes would change.
Got it. Yeah, because I'm actually not into R, so our side is like only Python is available. So I was just thinking like if any of these packages available, so I will. But anyways, I got the terminologies, I got the names. I will try to find out the similar packages which can do the job in Python. But I'm just saying, okay, just in case if you have a you get come across by any means, so just share it with us.
Sure, I'll do that.
Thank you. But I appreciate that. This was really good session, honestly.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm not sure if anyone has experience with this as well, but using R packages from Python as well. Like I know in R you could use
that in RStudio.
but yeah, like you can, but I meant like the other way around too.
Yeah.
Brian, do you know if you could do that? Because I know you use the other way, like with Reticulate and R Markdown and Python. But from Python, could you use R packages?
There is a program. Oops.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Matt.
There is a program. It's eluding me. The name is eluding me right now, but actually it uses ggplot for Python. So if I think of it in the next minute or two, I'll put it up there.
There's something I think called the Pi to R or something along those lines that allows you to use, it's almost like the reverse of Reticulate.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's nearly as good.
I was trying to Google it real quickly, but I wasn't sure what it was called.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard about this Quarto platform, which is similar to RStudio, but I haven't looked too much into it. It's
there it is. RPi2 is I was close. I had R2 and Pi, just not in the right order. But I would, if you want to mix and match, I would stick with Reticulate in Markdown. In fact, I just saw a thing. I'll actually do a demo for a lightning talk on doing some pretty advanced Reticulate with our Markdown and doing web apps with it for that next chat.
That'd be great.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, I did just put that in the chat as well, that in January, we will have a series of lightning talks as well. So if there's something that you maybe want to do a 5-minute talk on, maybe a new package or something that you just learned, you can fill out that speaker submission form there. But it's always fun to see all the new things that the people are learning and all these packages. Thank you so much, Priyanka. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time. And thank you all so much for joining. I'll do one last check to see if there are any other questions that I missed too.
Plot9, that's it. Plot9 uses ggplot for Python.
Oh, interesting.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Perfect.
That's what community
Sorry, guys.
is.
I have to just step out for another meeting. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You.
Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming in. I hope everybody gained something or the other. I learned a lot in the process, so I really appreciate this opportunity.